The rain did not merely fall from the sky, it assaulted the Blackwood estate with violent intent, hammering against the reinforced glass walls like 1,000 furious fists demanding entry. Each thunderclap felt like a countdown to something inevitable and unforgiving. Inside the mansion, the silence was worse, thick, suffocating, and alive with dread. Sarah sat perched on the edge of a velvet armchair that probably cost more than her father's entire home, her spine straight, her hands clenched tightly in her lap as if gripping herself together. Her knuckles had gone white, betraying the fear she refused to show. At 24, she was a trained nurse, a woman who thrived in chaos, who could remain calm while life slipped through her fingers in emergency rooms. But this was not a medical crisis. This was something far more final. This felt like an execution. Beside her, her father, Mr. Williams, dabbed at his forehead with a handkerchief already soaked through with sweat. He looked painfully small in this vast library, a room with cathedral-high ceilings, towering shelves of leather-bound books, and shadows so deep they seemed to devour the light. "He's coming," he whispered, his voice brittle, barely holding together. "Sarah, remember what I told you. Don't look him in the eye for too long. Don't speak unless he speaks to you first." His breath shook as he added, "Damian Blackwood isn't a man you negotiate with. He's a man you survive." Sarah swallowed hard, the lump in her throat tasting like bile. "Dad," she whispered, forcing herself to breathe, "how much do we actually owe him? You said it was bad, but you never told me how bad." Her father flinched, his gaze darting to the massive mahogany doors at the far end of the room. 50 million, he breathed. The number fell into the silence like a curse carved in stone. Sarah felt the blood drain from her face. 50 million. "Dad, how could you?" Before he could answer, a sharp mechanical click cut through the room. The doors didn't swing open, they slid apart with a smooth hydraulic hiss. And then he entered. Damian Blackwood. The billionaire recluse. The man whispered about in boardrooms and feared in alleys. The man the tabloids claimed was broken after a tragic accident 2 years ago. He rolled forward in a wheelchair that looked less like medical equipment and more like a throne, chrome, black leather, and power. He moved with the silent precision of a predator. Sarah's breath hitched. The rumors had lied. He wasn't monstrous or disheveled. He was terrifyingly beautiful. His charcoal three-piece suit clung perfectly to his broad frame. His skin, a deep rich ebony, glowed beneath the dim chandelier. Thick, neatly tied dreadlocks framed a face carved from granite, sharp cheekbones, a commanding jaw, eyes darker than the storm raging outside. Even seated, his presence dominated the room. He stopped 10 feet away, offered no greeting, no smile, only a cold, assessing stare. His gaze swept over her father with open contempt before locking onto Sarah. She shivered as he looked at her, not like a human being, but like property, something to be claimed. "Mr. Williams," Damian said at last, his deep baritone vibrating through her chest. "You are late." Her father stumbled to his feet. "The rain, sir, the roads were flooded." "We came as fast as, excuses are for the poor," Damian interrupted smoothly, tapping a finger against the armrest. "And you are very poor." Something in Sarah snapped. "We didn't come here to be insulted," she said, her voice trembling but clear. Her father gasped. Damian's eyes flicked back to her, sharp, intrigued. He rolled closer, the quiet whir of the wheels echoing in the silence. "You have spirit," he murmured. "Your father lacks a spine. But you," his gaze lingered. "You are different." Sarah lifted her chin. "I'm a nurse. I deal with difficult people every day." His lips curved into a humorless smirk. "Is that what you think I am?" She gestured to the chair. "I see a man who uses his pain to frighten others." Her father looked moments from collapse. Damian laughed, low, dry, and dangerous. "Pain," he echoed softly. "You know nothing of pain, little nurse. If you did, you wouldn't be standing so bravely in front of me. He turned his attention back to her father, and whatever faint amusement had lingered on his face vanished without a trace. 50 million, Damian said coldly. Today is the deadline. Do you have my money, Williams? Her father's hands twisted together helplessly. I need more time, he pleaded, his voice cracking. Just 6 months. Please, Damian. I've liquidated what I can. I sold the cars. I just need, you have nothing, Damian cut in mercilessly. Your company is bankrupt. Your accounts are frozen. You are a sinking ship that owes me a fortune. He pressed a button on the armrest of his chair, and a tablet screen slid to life. With a bold flick of his finger, he scrolled through files. I could have you arrested tonight. Fraud. Embezzlement. Tax evasion. The list is long. You would die in prison. The words shattered what little dignity Mr. Williams had left. He collapsed to his knees on the Persian rug, sobbing openly. Sarah felt a hot tear sting her eye, not of pity alone, but of humiliation. Please, her father begged. Take the house. Take anything. Just don't send me to jail. Damian sneered. I don't want your house. I have 10 of them. He rode closer until he towered over the broken man, then slowly lifted his gaze to Sarah. The intensity of his stare made her lungs forget how to breathe. However, Damian said softly, there is one asset you possess that interests me. The room seemed to lose all its air. What? Her father whispered. Damian raised a long, elegant finger and pointed at Sarah. Silence swallowed everything. Me. Sarah breathed. My public image requires adjustment, Damian said calmly, as if discussing a corporate acquisition. My board believes I am too isolated since the accident. They want stability. A family man. I need a wife. He leaned back, fingers stippled. A nurse is even better. The devoted caregiver. The press will adore it. You want me to work for you? Sarah asked, stunned. No, Damian corrected smoothly. I want you to marry me. A contract marriage. 1 year. You live here. Attend galas. Smile for cameras. In return, your father's debt disappears. No, Sarah said instantly. I'm not for sale. Damian lifted an eyebrow and reached for the phone beside him. Then your father goes to prison tonight. Wait. Mr. Williams cried, scrambling up and clutching her arm. Sarah, please. It's just 1 year. Please, don't let them take me. Sarah looked at her father, broken, desperate, then at Damian, who watched her with patient certainty. He knew she would break. She was standing at the edge of a cliff. If I do this, she said through clenched teeth, I have conditions. Damian paused. Conditions, he said with mild amusement. Speak. I won't share your bed. I keep my job at the hospital. He studied her for a long moment. Agreed, he said at last. But understand this. He rolled forward until his knees brushed her legs. For 1 year, you are mine. You don't speak to the press without permission. And you never enter the West Wing. Why? Sarah asked despite herself. My business, he snapped. He extended his hand. Deal. Her chest felt hollow as she took it. His grip was firm, too firm. As he withdrew, she felt it, the subtle shift of his weight, the controlled engagement of his core. A movement that didn't belong to a man confined to a chair for 2 years. The thought unsettled her, but she pushed it aside. 2 days later, standing alone in her lavish bedroom, Sarah realized the truth. Silk carpets. Reinforced windows. A locked door. It wasn't luxury. It was a cage. They had married that morning, no weaknesses, no warmth. Just ink on paper. Past midnight, thirst drove her into the hallway. The mansion was silent, bathed in amber light. As she neared the west wing, she froze. A sound drifted through the corridor. Thud. Hiss. Thud. Hiss. Rhythmic. Mechanical. Like something, or someone, training in the dark. Sarah frowned as the realization settled in. Damian's bedroom was in the west wing. It was past 2 in the morning. Why would he be awake, and what was that sound? Curiosity, her oldest and most dangerous flaw, tightened its grip. She took one step toward the forbidden corridor, then another. The noise grew louder, unmistakable now, ragged breathing, the harsh exhale of physical strain. Her nurse's instincts flared. What if he fell? What if he's hurt? Damian, she whispered, inching closer to the double doors at the end of the hall. They stood slightly ajar, a thin blade of harsh white light spilling across the floor. She leaned forward and peered through the crack, and the wall tilted. The room beyond wasn't a bedroom or a recovery space. It was a combat gym. Heavy bags hung from reinforced beams. Free weights lined the walls. Pull-up bars gleamed under clinical lights. And Damian was there, standing. No wheelchair. The chair sat abandoned in the corner, silent and useless. He hung from a pull-up bar, shirtless, his powerful back rippling with sculpted muscle as sweat glistened on his dark skin. He pulled himself up with terrifying ease, 1, 2, 3, each movement controlled, lethal. Then he dropped. He landed on his feet without a stumble, knees bending smoothly as his thick, muscular legs absorbed the impact like a predator touching down. He straightened to his full height, well over 6 feet, rolled his neck, and walked to a bench, calm and unhurried, wiping sweat from his face. Sarah's mind fractured. He's paralyzed. He can't walk. Every report, every headline screamed the same lie. He's faking it. The realization struck like a physical blow. Why would a man this powerful pretend to be broken? Panic surged. She stepped back, and her foot brushed the edge of the hallway runner. The faintest sound. Inside the gym, Damian froze. Absolute stillness. Like a tiger scenting prey. Sarah stopped breathing. Please don't turn around. Slowly, impossibly, Damian turned his head toward the door. The man who looked back wasn't the disabled husband she'd married hours ago. He looked like a killer. Who's there? His voice was sharp, lethal. Sarah ran. She bolted down the hall as the gym door slammed open behind her. Heavy footsteps thundered after her, running footsteps. He wasn't chasing her in a chair. He was sprinting. She threw herself into her room and slammed the door, locking it as her hands shook violently. She slid down the wood, gasping for air. A fist crashed against the door, high, powerful. Sarah. His voice was low, controlled, terrifying. Open the door. Tears streamed down her face as she realized the truth. She was married to a stranger who could walk, a stranger who had lied to the world for 2 years, and now he knew she knew. Silence fell. Worse than the pounding. Then she heard it. Metal sliding against metal. A key. Her blood turned to ice. Of course he had won. The lock clicked. The handle turned slowly. The door opened, and there was no wheelchair in sight. Damian Blackwood filled the doorway, shirtless, towering, broad shoulders blocking the light, sweat gleaming on his skin, dreadlocks loose around his face. He stepped inside. Heavy. Controlled. Dangerous. He closed the door behind him and locked it again. Get away from me, Sarah stammered, snatching the heavy brass lamp from the bedside table. She raised it like a weapon, though her hands shook so violently the shade rattled against the base. Stay back. Damian didn't even glance at the lamp. He looked only at her. His eyes were dark voids, cold, unreadable, and terrifying. "Put that down, Sarah," he said. His voice was different now that he was standing, deeper, stronger, carrying a dominance that filled the room and pressed against her chest. "You can walk," she accused, hysteria clawing into her voice. "You're a liar. You've been lying to everyone." He moved. 2 long strides closed the distance between them. Before she could react, his hand clamped around her wrist. His grip was iron, not cruel, but utterly unyielding. He guided her arm down with ease, removed the lamp from her fingers, and set it back on the table with a soft, deliberate clink. Then he stepped closer, crowding her space until she had to tilt her head back to look at him. Heat radiated from his body. He smelled of sandalwood and sweat, raw and unmistakably male. "Yes," he said quietly. "I can walk. I can run. I can fight." He leaned down, his face inches from hers, and she caught a flash of gold in his dark eyes. "And now that you know," he continued, his voice dropping, "you've become the most dangerous liability in my life." "Why?" Sarah whispered, trapped between his massive frame and the bed. "Why pretend?" He released a sharp breath. "Pity," he spat. "Pity is a shield. When people pity you, they underestimate you. They speak freely. They stop watching." He let go of her wrist but planted one hand on the bedpost beside her head, caging her in. 2 years ago, someone cut my brake lines. It wasn't an accident. It was an assassination attempt." His jaw tightened. "My legs were crushed. 18 months of surgeries, pain, and therapy before I stood again." Shock rippled through her. As a nurse, she understood the brutality of that recovery. "I stayed broken because the person who tried to kill me is still out there," he said softly. "Waiting. If they learn I'm strong again, they'll come for me, and they'll kill you to get to me." He caught her chin, forcing her to meet his gaze. "You've stumbled into a war, Sarah." She trembled as the truth settled like lead in her chest. "I won't tell anyone," she whispered. "Please, just let me go." Damian laughed, low and humorless. "Go where? If you leave, the deal is void. Your father goes to prison by morning." He straightened, towering once more. "You're staying. You're my wife, and now you're my accomplice." He turned and walked away, power rolling through every step. At the door, he paused. "Sleep, Mrs. Blackwood. Breakfast is at 8. And remember, if you so much as glance at my legs the wrong way in front of the staff, you regret it." He left her staring at the closed door, her body shaking. Morning came too quickly. Sunlight flooded the dining room, mocking her exhaustion. She entered in her nursing scrubs, her shift at the hospital the only lifeline she had left. Damian was already seated at the head of the table, back in the wheelchair. Impeccable. Controlled. A blanket draped over his legs. Weakness performed to perfection. "Good morning, darling," he said lightly, eyes never leaving the newspaper. Sarah froze as a maid poured juice nearby. "Come sit closer," Damian added, patting the chair beside him. "A wife belongs next to her husband." Sarah swallowed hard, forced a smile, and stepped forward, knowing now just how deadly the role truly was. Sarah walked stiffly to the chair beside Damian and sat down, acutely aware of how close he was. The faint scent of sandalwood clung to him, the same scent from the night before, and her heart began to hammer painfully against her ribs. "Did you sleep well?" Damian asked at last, folding the newspaper with deliberate care and turning his head toward her. His dark eyes locked onto hers, daring her to say something reckless. "Challenge me," they seemed to say. "Not really," Sarah replied, reaching for the coffee pot. Her hand trembled, the china clattering loudly against the saucer. "I had a nightmare." She paused, then added flatly, a monster got into my room. Damian's lips curved into a slow, knowing smirk. Is that so? He murmured. Perhaps you should lock your door. I did, she shot back, meeting his gaze. It didn't stop you. Before he could respond, a maid approached carrying a platter of fruit. Madam, would you like papaya? Yes, thank you, Sarah said quickly, breaking eye contact. Martha, Damian said smoothly. Leave us. The maid bobbed a curtsy and retreated, pulling the heavy doors closed behind her. The latch clicked, and the room changed. Damian straightened. The slouch vanished, replaced by quiet authority. You're playing a dangerous game with that tone, Sarah, he said calmly, lifting his coffee. I'm going to walk, she said, standing abruptly. Her stomach churned. I have a shift. Sit down, he ordered. He didn't raise his voice, but the command snapped through the air like a whip. Sarah, Saturday, we have a guest at 9, Damian continued. Chief Obi. A business associate, and a scavenger who's been circling my company since my accident. I don't care about your business, Sarah said bitterly. You will, Damian replied. Because you're staying. You'll greet him with me. You'll stand behind my chair. You'll look at me like you adore me. And when he insults me, and he will, you'll defend me. Why should I? She snapped. You can defend yourself. You can literally stand up and hit him. Damian leaned closer, his voice dropping to a dangerous murmur. Because if I do that, 5 years of planning dies instantly. You're my cover, Sarah. A crippled man with a pretty wife isn't threatening. He spitted. Distracted. The intercom buzzed. Sir, the butler announced, Chief Obi has arrived. Damian's transformation was instant. His shoulders slumped. His eyes dulled. Even his mouth slackened slightly, as if medicated. It was flawless. Showtime, he whispered. Remember your father. Chief Obi burst into the drawing room moments later, a short, rotund man wrapped in an elaborate traditional agbada, laughter booming ahead of him. 2 bodyguards followed close behind. Damian, my boy. Obi boomed, patting Damian's shoulder instead of offering his hand, the gesture thick with condescension. You look pale. Are you eating enough? Sarah stood behind the wheelchair, gripping the handles until her knuckles burned. She despised Damian, but she instantly loathed this man. I'm fine, Chief, Damian said weakly. Just tired. The pain comes and goes. A shame, Obi said, sinking into the sofa opposite them, legs spread wide. His eyes slid to Sarah. I hear you married. Is this the lucky lady? His gaze crawled over her, oily and assessing. This is Sarah, Damian said softly. My wife. She's a nurse. Obi laughed loudly. Smart move. Marrying your caretaker saves medical bills, eh? Sarah's jaw tightened, but she didn't move. She was playing her role. And every second of it felt like standing in a den of snakes. Sarah felt Damian tense beneath her hands on the wheelchair handles, not a visible movement, but a subtle vibration through the metal frame, like a restrained storm. He wanted to kill this man. She is not my caretaker, Damian said softly. She is my partner. Of course, Chief Obi waved dismissively, leaning back with a smug smile. Now, to business. The merger. My offer still stands, but the price has gone down. The market is volatile, and a man in your condition, he let the words hang. Well, you can't be expected to run an empire. Let me take the burden off you. I am not selling, Damian replied evenly. Obi's smile cracked. Don't be stubborn. You're a half-man, Damian. Sitting in this palace while wolves circle. I'm trying to save you. Then his gaze slid to Sarah, sharp and invasive. Tell him, my dear. Tell him to take the money so you can run off to some island. He can't give you children. He can't give you a real life. The insult sliced through the room. Sarah stared at the back of Damian's head. She knew the truth, knew he was whole, powerful, capable of snapping this man in two. And yet he sat there, swallowing his pride for a larger game she didn't yet understand. Something inside her snapped. She stepped around the wheelchair and planted herself between them. "Get out," she said. Obi blinked. "Excuse me." "I said get out," Sarah repeated, her voice calm and unshaken. "You're insulting my husband in his own home. That's not business. That's disrespect." "Sarah," Damian warned gently, still playing his part. "No," she said, turning back to Obi. "You think because his legs don't work, his mind is broken. He built this company. He is 10 times the man you are." She crossed her arms. "The offer is rejected. Leave before I call security." Obi surged to his feet, face purple with fury. "You let your woman speak for you now," he sneered at Damian. "Pathetic." He spat on the rug and turned for the door. When it slammed shut, silence rushed back in. Sarah stood there breathing hard, adrenaline roaring through her veins. She turned and froze. Damian was staring at her. The weak, medicated mask was gone. He sat upright, eyes blazing with something sharp and unmistakable. "Respect. You have a sharp tongue," he murmured. "He was awful," Sarah said stiffly. "I hate men like that." "He's a fool," Damian replied. "But a dangerous one." He rolled closer and took her hand. She tried to pull away, but he held it gently. "Thank you," he said, and this time it was real. "I didn't do it for you," she lied. "I did it because he annoyed me." Damian smacked, thumb brushing the back of her knuckles. "You have a shift." "Yes. In 20 minutes. Go," he said. "My driver is waiting. But come back straight after. Tonight, we begin your training." "Training?" she asked wearily. "If you're going to be Mrs. Blackwood," he said calmly, "you need to learn more than how to change bandages. You need to know how to lie." Sarah spent the day moving through the hospital like a ghost, changing IVs and checking charts while her mind stayed trapped in the mansion. That evening, the butler led her to the study. Damian waited behind his desk, still in the wheelchair, blueprints and classified files spread before him. "Lock the door," he said without looking up. She did. He turned the chair to face her. "Come here," he ordered. When she stopped in front of him, his eyes lifted, dark, calculating. "I have a problem," Damian said quietly. "My legs." "What about them?" Sarah asked carefully. "Your legs work fine." Damian's jaw tightened. "That is the problem," he said flatly. "I've been paralyzed for 2 years. But I've also been training in secret. My muscles shouldn't look like this. My calves are too hard. My thighs are too thick." He gestured down at his legs beneath the tailored trousers. "I have a medical examination next week. Insurance requirement. The doctor is loyal to me, but the nurse assisting him is new." His gaze lifted to hers, sharp and unblinking. "If she touches my legs and feels muscle instead of atrophy, everything collapses." Sarah's stomach dropped. "I can't make muscle disappear," she said quietly. "No," Damian replied, rolling the chair back slightly, creating distance that felt deliberate. "But you can teach me how to fake the symptoms. You know what paralysis looks like. How it responds, or doesn't, to touch, pressure, reflex test." His eyes darkened. "I need you to fix it." "Fix what?" Sarah asked, though she already knew. "Touch them," Damian said. The words landed heavy. "What?" "My legs," he repeated calmly. "Feel them." Tell me what gives me away. It rushed to her face. I can't. You will, he said, voice dropping into something dangerous. This isn't a request, Sarah. This is survival. Slowly, reluctantly, she knelt in front of the wheelchair. Her hands trembled as she reached out, palms settling against his thighs through the fabric of his suit. They were solid, unyielding. Not the softness of disuse. Not weakness. Strength. Controlled and coiled. She slid her hands down to his knees, then his calves. Every inch of him told the same truth. Any medical professional would know instantly. Well? Damian asked, his voice husky. He was watching her closely, eyes tracking every movement. Sarah looked up at him from her knees. Their faces were close now, too close. The air between them felt charged, heavy with something neither of them named. You have too much tone, she whispered. Paralyzed muscles are soft. Flaccid. Yours are tense. Always ready. I don't know how to relax, Damian said quietly. My body is trained to fight. He leaned forward, his hand rising to cup her face. His thumb brushed her lower lip, not a caress, but not quite a threat either. Teach me, Sarah, he murmured. Or we both lose everything. Her heart thundered in her chest. She was kneeling before a predator, hands on his body, and for the first time, fear wasn't the only thing she felt. Okay, she breathed. We start with reflex suppression. She moved her hand toward his knee, and the phone on the desk rang sharply. Damian didn't look away from her. Let it ring, he said. The sound echoed through the study, unanswered, relentless. And in that moment, Sarah understood the truth. She wasn't just trapped in his house anymore. She was standing at the center of his web, and she wasn't sure she wanted to escape. The phone kept ringing. Assassin. Police. Or something worse. And could she really teach a man like Damian Blackwood how to play dead, without being consumed in the process?